Hey, everybody, welcome back to the Goal Getter podcast. Today, we're joined by an absolute powerhouse in the nonprofit space, Julia Campbell. Julia is a nonprofit marketing expert who's made it her mission to help nonprofits get the visibility and funding they deserve. Through storytelling, social media, and digital marketing, Julia empowers nonprofit leaders to reach more supporters, engage more donors, and build movements. She's also the author of Storytelling Digital Age, a guide for nonprofits, which has become a go-to resource for so many organizations. She's also the founder of the Nonprofit Social Media Summit, where she helps nonprofits work smarter, not harder, online. Julia, I'm so excited to have you here. Thank you so much for joining us on the pod.
Thanks. I'm excited too.
All right, so jumping straight into it, we ask this question to all of our guests. So let's start all the way from the beginning. When you were growing up, what did you think you were going to do as a kid? Where did you grow up? And what was kind of your thought process as a child about what you'd be doing today?
I grew up in Beverly, Massachusetts on the North Shore, north of Boston. And when I grew up, I wanted to be Harriet the Spy. I don't know if you've ever read that book. I was completely obsessed with the way that she did actually spy on people. So she did actually break into people's houses and spy on them. But what I liked about it was she was so interested in people. She'd write everything down in her notebooks. She wanted to be a writer. I don't know if she really knew she wanted to be a journalist, but then that was what I started to want to be. So I worked on the newspaper in both my middle school and high school, all through college. I studied journalism, just very interested in storytelling, interviewing people, talking to people, figuring out the issues, exploring different things. And I've just always been interested in that. So I went from wanting to be Harriet the Spy to wanting to travel the world, working for Rolling Stone and writing these huge magazine spreads. And that was 1999 when I actually graduated from college. And as we know, the internet was really taking off and magazines are still a thing, but I think they were being very hesitant to hire and expand their teams. So I ended up going into the Peace Corps and I lived in Senegal, which is in West Africa, for 2.5 years. And that's where I really started working with NGOs and nonprofits. And I did my very first fundraising campaign there, learned a lot about public education and like marketing public health and how to do that culturally in a culturally appropriate way and a way that's actually going to resonate, and learned a lot about storytelling there. Then came home and started my career sort of in development and marketing, and I've worked in and with nonprofits really ever since.
Was there a moment in your career where you realized, okay, this is the work I want to dedicate my life and career to? Because I think nonprofits is a very niche market.
I like to write, and I am very committed to social justice, and I've always been an activist, and I've always been involved in social causes. So I thought it was a really great merge of the two, because when I started out in fundraising, it was a lot of writing, annual appeals and donor newsletters, blogs and websites. I wrote, a lot of grants, and I got to go to a lot of meetings, met with a lot of donors, major donors and smaller donors, did a lot of events. I really enjoyed event planning. But I don't know. And then I did get my master's in public administration because I thought I was going to probably go to law school, and I would have fought to be an advocate probably for women's rights or immigrant rights. I probably would have worked at like a legal aid organization if I'd ended up going to law school. But then I got my development director job, my very first development director job at a domestic violence shelter. And, it's really hard work and isolating work, but I really enjoyed it. So I know a lot of people fall into fundraising, but I think that I can see the threads and I can see the path and the journey that's really led me to where I ended up. And then, of course, now I have a lot more discretion over what I do and where I spend my time because I work for myself. I have my own consulting business, and I can do speaking and courses and write books and do my podcast, which I love to do. That's the journalist in me, and, talk to interesting people and explore interesting ideas all day. But I know every time I interview fundraisers on my podcast, it's always like, oh, I'm an accidental fundraiser. I fell into it, or it was the first job I got out of college. But I think after the Peace Corps, I was pretty intentional. I knew I wanted to work in the fundraising space. I just wasn't sure exactly where. And then I ended up getting a job at Boston University and then transitioning into like smaller organizations after that.
Interesting. Yeah, I think besides falling into fundraising, I think the idea of working in a nonprofit and then going to law school is very, very common.
Yes. Yes, because you see the injustices and you see the only way you can fight it is by tackling the system.
Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's interesting because both Nat and I think we said this before we jumped on recorded as well, that we both work in nonprofit marketing for human rights organizations, either nationally or internationally. And I think it is interesting that the marketing side can be a bit overlooked. People tend to think more about the legal or fundraising side of things, but I think the creative marketing
Mhm.
in a nonprofit setting is pretty niche. And it's definitely to then go off and do your own thing, which is something I am personally currently doing actually as well.
Great.
I'm curious to hear like some of the early challenges you faced when launching your business and starting to do consulting then for nonprofits. So not even in-house anymore, but now you're kind of running your own thing and pitching yourself as a creative person within this niche nonprofit
Right.
world.
And I should say that I love marketing. So all the fundraising jobs I've had, and I know a lot of fundraisers can sympathize with this, have always been fundraising marketing because for some reason it gets lumped together in a lot of organizations, even though I believe they're very specific skill sets. Like a good fundraiser, if you're working with major donors, you're schmoozing, you're networking, you're at events. And once I had my daughter, and I have 2 kids now, that really wasn't something that I really wanted to do or was able to do. I didn't want to go in the city every night and I didn't want to be sitting at these dinners. I don't golf. Like that's what you really need to be kind of doing, I think. And also constantly, having this ability to take rejection or this real positive outlook on things. And for me, marketing, I liked the marketing side more also because when I was sort of coming up into being a development and marketing director, that was when social media was taking off and email marketing, and there were all these cool new tools that you could use and new ways to spread the word. And there was like the ice bucket challenge and like all these cool things happening. And I thought, wow, that is something I want to be a part of. Giving Tuesday became a big movement primarily driven by social media. So I think for me, I was thinking, oh, this is pretty exciting and I want to be a part of it. In terms of starting my own business, I'm usually very transparent about this. I was laid off from my job when I was actually 9 months pregnant with my daughter, who's now 16,
Oh my
and I have
goodness.
a 10-year-old boy. And of course, that was pretty earth-shattering and probably illegal, but at the time, you don't think about that. You're sort of just struggling. And then my husband had just gotten a new job, and it was the crash. He was working in finance, and it was the 2008
Mm.
um, stock market crash, and we were just sort of saying, "What are we going to do?" And what are we? What are we? What's going to happen? And what I did is I sort of leveraged some of my connections. I pieced together a bunch of sort of part-time jobs at different nonprofits doing various pieces of communication for people that might not be able to afford a salaried full-time marketing person. And I don't know, that just morphed into writing 2 books and speaking. And then I feel like I've always done webinars and courses, but then in 2000, it really exploded in terms of digital learning and virtual learning and kind of went from there. But it's incredibly challenging. No one understands what you're trying to do or what you're going through. I didn't have any kind of real network at the time. Like I had people I'd met through my job. I had some friends. I had some people that worked in nonprofit, but building up that network from scratch, which I know a lot of people do when they start out their own business, that was probably for me the most challenging aspect of it. Finding people that I could rely on and finding people I could call on and people that would give me advice and go to coffee with me and just kind of beg them for any kind of connection that I could. But it really worked out, I think, for the best. And I'm now officially, unemployable. People send me full-time jobs all the time. And I'm thinking, no, why? I don't want to work 70 hours a week and get paid $40,000 and
No.
answer to a boss. I don't want to do that. Certainly understand why people do it and I'm so happy that people do it. But I think for me, it's just, I'm kind of beyond that point. Yeah, I think it's Kara Swisher that was said she's unemployable. So I'm going to steal that from her.
I love that.
Yeah. So you're a storyteller, we can tell for sure. And you help nonprofits tell their story better because they all tell their stories, but they need to tell it in an efficient and captivating way, right? So why would you say storytelling is crucial for the success of nonprofits?
Well, storytelling is the way that human beings relate to each other. It's the way that we convey information that's going to help stick. So, when a nonprofit has a mission that is especially hard to understand, or something where it might be hard to get empathy, there's a lot of myths and misconceptions, maybe stereotypes around the issue, a story puts it all in perspective for the person listening to the story. And it's just really the actual way that we have communicated from the days in caves around the campfire to right now is through our stories. And I think of the most I've been doing a lot and studying a lot of like peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns, and just because recently a lot of my friends have been running them, and I'm thinking about the ones that are the most successful, and it's always the personal story. It's always the connection to the organization and sharing a little bit of vulnerability and a little bit of a story about what this organization means to you and the impact that it had. And that just resonates with people. And not every story is going to resonate with everyone. We know that our messages and our mission, they're not going to resonate with everyone on earth, but stories kind of unite us. So we can get united around a really good story. And it's also something that we tend to pass on and share rather than sort of a bullet pointed list of data. But for me, storytelling right now, I talk about it a lot in my keynotes. It is our last best competitive advantage for nonprofits. We cannot compete with the algorithms. We cannot compete with like huge ad budgets. We cannot compete with AI slop everywhere. And I love AI tools. I use them a lot. But we can't compete with the people that are just kind of putting garbage out there all the time and have this content generation machine and just want to get eyeballs and clicks. We'll never be able to compete on quantity, but we can compete on quality. And our stories are really what's going to set us apart from all of that. And what's really going to help us attract new followers, new supporters, and really build a case for our mission.
I love that. Yeah, I think relating it back to, I'm gonna use Nat as an example here. So Nat and I used to work, well, she still works there, but I used to work at a large nonprofit human rights organization in the city. And when we both first started, there was no one really leading social media. They had lawyers on Twitter kind of just
Yep.
putting out, what they thought the best thing that
Announcements or
day was.
something.
Exactly. Or this is the case we're defending, learn more here, which then led to an even more detailed blog post or email or something or other on the website. It was all over the place, not organized, and they didn't fully embrace the concept of digital marketing strategy. And I think a lot of nonprofits fall into that bucket. And
Hmm.
now that I'm doing consulting, I've been doing that for almost a year now. And I find that most of my clients have the same issue, right? They like at least have thought about it, have maybe tried, had said like, "Ooh, okay, we're doing this, that's enough," but
Yes.
haven't quite gotten to the point where they're strategic about it. So, in your opinion, what is one small but like powerful mindset shift that a nonprofit in this type of situation can make today to see a higher online engagement, whether that be social media or email opens, clicks, whatever it might be?
We need to make it about our audience's agenda and not our agenda.
Mm.
So, too much of social media that I see from nonprofits is about we have an event, we have a press release, we got an award, our board member was honored here. It's really just a stream of announcements, it seems like to me, and it's not actual information that your audience wants to hear from you, whether that's educational information or how to information or stories or inspiration. So, we have been sold this bill of goods with digital marketing that these tools work for us. And we know that the social media platforms, we do not own anything that we post on them, but they can pull the rug out from under us at at any time. We know that Google and Outlook and Apple Mail can change the rules of email and open rates and accessibility because they do very frequently. So we're kind of at the whim of these tech companies. But if we continually create content designed for our audience and their questions and why they care about us and what they're thinking about, and if we're answering the question for them, what did my gift do? And why is this meaningful? What would happen if we closed our doors tomorrow? That's a question
Mm.
I'm always encouraging my clients to ask. Think about the gap that you're filling. You might not be a hospital, you might not be physically working in an ER and saving lives, but there's a gap. Like libraries are filling a gap, schools are filling a gap, environmental organizations. There's environmental trusts. Think about the gap you're filling and then what can you share on social media that's going to help your audience know, like, and trust you? Because it's all about building that affinity. So we need to stop really thinking of it as an afterthought and then getting upset that we don't get engagement. And I see this in my
Mhm.
audits all the time. I do audits and assessments of websites, blogs, and social media. And I would say that's the number one issue is the content does not match what you're trying to achieve or your vision or your mission, and it doesn't match what your audience wants to see from you and hear from you.
I couldn't agree more. I think that that question is very important. I'm gonna even ask that myself every now and then for whatever I'm
Yes,
doing in
it's
life.
tough to do because we were sold that bill of goods, right? We were the Facebook page and it's going to be our billboard and it's going to replace our website. And we just put up a bunch of promotions and everyone sees it. But as we know now, it's with the proliferation of creators and influencers and organizations and businesses, it's so hard to get that attention. It would almost, our expectations, we kind of might have to tamper them down, but also being laser focused on what our audience wants. And if you look at the most successful creators out there, that's absolutely what they do. They don't really get involved in other things. They sort of are like, no, this is what
Mhm.
I'm talking about. This is what I want to be known for. And this is what my audience wants. And I'm just going to give them that.
Yeah, I like that. As we discussed before, there are several things that within the nonprofit marketing field they get overlooked, even between peers and colleagues, and more so for like the outside world. So, what's one of the biggest myths about nonprofit marketing that you wish you could debunk?
I wish I could debunk the fact that raising awareness is a goal. I know that awareness is important because social change cannot happen without awareness. But raising awareness, we are the best kept secret. We just need to get more eyeballs on our Facebook page. Okay, but if it's the right eyeballs, like it has to be the right people. I could make you go viral tomorrow. You could just go streaking down the street and I could do a live stream and you go viral in 5 minutes, but that's not what you want to be known for. And it's not the
Yeah.
people that you want to attract. So a lot of marketing I see is done around contests or events or things to like attract engagement or attract brand new people, but it's not really around the people that might really help want to build the movement and be a part of the movement. So raising awareness as a goal, you have to quantify it and say, I think, okay, we really want to raise awareness with this specific age group on this specific platform. And we will attempt to do it by posting 3 videos a month. And this is how we're going to measure success. Because marketing can be this sort of ephemeral thing where it's like, oh, we're marketing and like I know it when I see it, but it does need to be tracked. So awareness is so much more than just getting eyeballs on your cause. It's really making people understand what you do and then being able to measure it.
Yeah.
I could not agree more. Yeah, I like that one. So the world is kind of a scary place at the moment.
It's terrifying.
There's a lot going on, and the nonprofit world has definitely been hit very hard.
Yes.
So how do you keep yourself motivated and getting up each morning and feeling passionate, continue to feel passionate about the work that you're doing?
Well, I'm not very shy about my political views, but I don't even think that it is a partisan political issue at this point. I think we know what is happening. Nonprofits are under attack. And the president himself just said today that if the government does shut down, that Democrats and the causes they care about will be hurt and he will hurt them. So I don't know what that means, but it could be the ACLU, it could be environmental groups, it could be Amnesty International, who knows what that means. But I think we really have to take it very seriously when nonprofits of all stripes are under attack from the federal government. And I think how do I wake up every day? Well, my gosh, I mean, if I could wake up in 2016, I'm going to be able to wake up every day. I think that was a big wake up call for me. And I think a lot of progressives like
Yeah.
me and a lot of people that believe what I believe in social justice and equity and belonging and things like that, that we kind of, it was a real slap across the face. But then we dug our heels in and we thought, okay, what can we do to make it better? How I wake up every day. I mean, I just read a fantastic piece by Vu Le. I don't know if you know Vu Le, Vule. His website is Nonprofit AF. He's amazing and he's all over Instagram. He does not pull punches, but he said, "Hey guys, like we need to get more aggressive here. We need to stop playing the middle and like playing both sides and being nice and no, we need to say like the ACLU does, like Planned Parenthood does, like these groups do, like No Kid Hungry, right? No Kid Hungry on social media is constantly saying, we believe that no kid should go hungry. Like, if you
Period.
don't believe
Yeah.
that, then don't join us. Like, that's what we believe. And I'm sure some people will not believe that and troll them in the comments, but they're very clear on the line in the sand and what they believe in. And they state it over and over and over. And I do think that gives me hope to see that on social media, and to see that in my email inbox and to see that in the news, nonprofits kind of fighting back and sticking up for their mission and advocating for what they believe in, because it's really the only way. We can't go quiet. We can't worry about offending people. You're going to offend someone no matter, literally, you're going to offend someone with the font of your newsletter at this point, right? There's always going to be somebody It's just you're
Yeah,
always going to make someone angry. So I think as long as you're very clear about your message and what you're saying and you stick to your principles and values, then that will get you really far. But also, my kids give me a lot of hope and they're fantastic kids and they love to give back and they're very positive. I see a lot of generosity everywhere. I see a lot of people volunteering in my community and I see, I know you probably know I was diagnosed with breast cancer last year. And that generosity that my friends and family and just community members and strangers and people coming out of the woodwork have shown me is that generosity is still alive and well, and we're still taking care of our neighbors, no matter what happens in that horrible Facebook local group page, which I never
yeah.
visit for my town, by the way. That does not give me hope, but other things do.
No, I agree. I think good people, I firmly believe we are more. It's just that bad people are just noisier.
They're
That's all.
noisier. No, it's
Mhm.
seriously right. And then the good people don't want to get swept up in it because they're exhausted and they don't want to get in these fights and these flame wars. And then it just seems like there's not enough of us. But I agree with you. I think there are more of us. I think we're the silent majority. And,
Hmm.
we don't need to engage with people that are hateful and offensive. We need to be engaging with each other and really educating people that want to be educated and want to have conversations.
I
Exactly.
agree.
Yeah, we need to speak up. That doesn't
Yeah.
mean we need to
Just don't be
engage with
quiet.
hate.
Don't be
Yeah,
quiet, but you don't have to be everywhere in every corner in every conversation.
exactly. I think Grace and I were both huge fans of LinkedIn. It's a growing platform for both of our projects. So, how do you see the platform as an untapped tool for nonprofits in terms of like creating it like for donations for potential like brand, like Grace, her own personal brand and LinkedIn is growing steadily fast. So, how do you see the platform for nonprofits?
What I see nonprofits doing wrong on LinkedIn is using the company page, like I said before, just as a billboard or as a press release and thinking the company page is enough because the company page is okay for announcements. I think you should use it for storytelling, but that's not really where you're going to build your brand. It really, LinkedIn, people like to connect with people. So it's going to be your CEO, it's going to be your development director, it's going to be your program officers, the people on the ground. I think if you have people that are willing to talk on LinkedIn about the issues and willing to share information, that's really what's going to take off. I know I talk to nonprofits all the time and I have to convince their executive director, like, no, you need to be on LinkedIn. Like, you just need to be. You can post once a week if you want, But the thought leadership piece that LinkedIn offers is really invaluable. Your ability to comment on things and to talk about things that are going on with you, to connect with other people, to tag other people maybe you were at an event with, to build those relationships. In terms of donations, what I've seen work really well is like the peer-to-peer fundraising on LinkedIn. I think if a nonprofit is just posting a fundraising link on their company page without a clear ask or something, a specific campaign, it's not like just donate to us, that's not going to work. But if it's a staff member saying, oh, like it's breast cancer awareness month, one of our coworkers is affected by breast cancer, we would like to donate, we want to raise money this month for XYZ. I also really like to see on Giving Tuesday nonprofits highlighting other organizations and lifting each other up and collaborating. I think it's a great opportunity to do that. So that's really how I built my network on LinkedIn. I shared a lot of the content from other people. I would tag a lot of people in my content. I would comment, I'd spend a lot of time in the comments. So Kate Myers Emery, who's another absolutely fabulous thought leader in the digital space, she's the digital manager for candid.org, which is a fabulous nonprofit doing amazing social media. She posted, and I don't know the exact statistics, but it was something that she and her organization did like 500 times more listening and commenting in the past year and got so much more engagement and so many more followers just from commenting on other people, like thoughtfully commenting, adding to conversations, getting in front of other people's audiences. I really think LinkedIn is a great place to do that. I know that I'll be looking in the comments for people that I think are interesting sometimes for my podcast or to connect with on LinkedIn if it's a thought leader that I really like. So, once again, I think it all comes back to just intention and strategy. And if you are using LinkedIn as just a simple billboard, and a simple way to spray out your promotions, it's not going to work. If you're using it to build a community and if you're using it to truly and authentically connect with people, that's going to be so much more effective.
Yeah, I totally agree. And I think it's interesting to see a lot of for profit companies now creating these almost employee programs
Yes.
where they're giving incentives to employees now to go out there and build their own personal brand and spend that
Hmm.
time because they understand that the better their employees do with their personal brands, the more eyes are on the brand itself. So it will be interesting to watch nonprofits take more accountability in that space, I think, because it is definitely something that most nonprofits either don't realize or aren't in that conversation yet. I'm not totally sure, but I don't know any nonprofits currently that are running active employee programs in that way, but it could be
Yeah,
a
I don't
really
know either.
interesting
I know a lot
marketing
of
tactic.
EVs that are on LinkedIn, but I don't know of employee programs. I know Mark Horvath from Invisible People.
Okay.
He does just a fantastic job on LinkedIn. I mean, he posts about homelessness and how destructive the media is in its coverage of homelessness, and that's really his thing. And that's what he likes to post about, and that's what Invisible People does is they share real stories of real people that are unhoused. And his LinkedIn is like provocative and angry sometimes, and it's so good because it's so real and authentic. And I think, it's not for everybody that's going to want to, going to be want to be as provocative as he is. But I do think the thought leadership piece for executive directors, commenting on something in your community, like, oh, I'm thinking in Massachusetts, the federal government stripped the local food program, the farm to school program across the United States, because why would we want fresh local food from farms to be in our schools? But Massachusetts made a commitment to keep it and is funding it with state money. That would be great for an education nonprofit or a school or a principal or I don't know, someone that's working in education or No Kid Hungry, they were
Mhm.
commenting on it. That's why I thought of it. Talking about it and saying this is the kind of thing we need. It's been proven to work. Here's how you can help, here's what you can do. But being current and timely on all social media works well. I think being current and timely and relevant on LinkedIn works best.
Definitely. I totally agree. And yeah, with the program wise, I've only seen it with companies such as Buffer. I know Buffer actually just ran a big employee program in that way.
Oh,
And I
I
think
love Buffer. They just have a great vibe.
They
their
do.
whole
Yeah, and
brand.
their employees are really working on LinkedIn.
Yeah.
And maybe because of this program, I don't know, but I think it was something like a 3 or 4-month period where whoever got the most engagement won, like, a free dinner or something
Yeah,
like
yeah, yeah.
that,
Oh,
That's
I love
cool.
that.
which was super cool. It's like investment in not only your employees and their personal brand and what they're gonna look like and what their career is gonna look like over the next few
Yep.
years,
It's
but
thinking ahead.
also exactly, also an interesting creative way to bring that engagement to your own platform. So it could be an interesting tie-in for
I
nonprofits as
love
well.
that. I think
Yeah,
that's a great idea.
super interesting. Anyway, um, so what do you hope that obviously this podcast is very women focused. All of our guests are female and kind of doing their own thing. And that's what we like to highlight women kind of building their own careers in whatever way they would like to define that. So, what do you hope that your work ultimately empowers more women to achieve?
Wow. I think I would love to just empower more women to take risks and to not be afraid of speaking their mind on things and to not be afraid that it's going to damage their personal brand. So I've only found out that speaking my mind on things has increased my audience and it's attracted the right people to me. And sure, I've lost some email subscribers, maybe like 5 wrote me angry emails all along the way. I've been doing this for, 16 years. But those aren't my people, if you're mad about something I write about George Floyd, then maybe I'm not for you,
We don't, yeah,
and also maybe we can have a conversation, but yeah, if you're calling me names, then sorry, like you're
Yeah.
not for me and I'm not for you, and that's fine. Wish more women would be less people pleasing, and that's so hard for me because I just figured this out the other day with my friends. I'm the eldest daughter, eldest granddaughter, eldest niece, and the oldest of all my friends. I am like the matriarch of everybody, and we just figured this out. And the problem with that is eldest daughters tend to be very people pleasing and they hold other people's emotions and they don't talk about what's really bothering them. And I just wish more women would be very honest about the challenges that go into running a business. I think of 2 women in particular that I'm very inspired by. Mallory Erickson, she's a fundraiser. She's on LinkedIn. She's talked about her journeys with childbirth. She had a palsy develop in her face and took a video. She talked about stress and burnout. There's Dana Snyder, who runs Positive Equation. Those are 2 women actually you should absolutely have on your podcast. They are so phenomenal and amazing. And Dana Snyder's really built like this huge, huge business around monthly giving, but she was very upfront about her IVF journey. And not all of us are going to, I've been upfront about my cancer journey. Not all of us are going to be comfortable doing that. I just wish more women would be a little bit more vulnerable and know that really, I mean, the outpouring of support that you're going to get is going to be so much more than any backlash that you could get. Just be more comfortable in your own skin and be willing to say what you think. And then, put yourself in rooms that you're uncomfortable being in. Apply for that speaking gig. If you're like, I don't have any experience, apply for it. Apply for that job. I don't know. No, men will have 5 years experience and apply
Mm-hmm.
for a job. Okay. There's men that will never spoken on stage and they'll apply for that speaking gig or that consulting RFP. So like know your worth and know your worth. Know your worth.
I love that. Preach. Let's go.
Yes. I know. That's really what I want to, that's the one thing I want to impart a lot of things, but just know your worth and get rid of that imposter syndrome as much as you can. I know it's tough to do. Trust me.
Yeah. Before we wrap up, you have an outstanding career. Is there one project, campaign, nonprofit success story that you've been a part of that holds a special place in your heart?
There's so many. I think during COVID, I worked really closely with MasterCard and GoFundMe to do a series of totally free webinars and resources for really small nonprofits to help them get on like the digital fundraising train. This was before GoFundMe was bought by Classy. So that was about 6 months and it was just absolutely amazing. And we had like thousands of people on those webinars and just I really think and know that it helped a lot of organizations demystify digital and, whether they use GoFundMe or not, that wasn't actually very important to GoFundMe. It was more like, this is a platform you can use, but here is why you should be doing this and why you should be jumping on digital. And I actually, I recently worked with the American Heart Association. I love them on how to get more people to do peer-to-peer fundraising campaigns for them. And it's really hard because getting people to do anything, okay, is hard. But getting people to raise their hand to raise money is very difficult. So the messaging, the communications, the websites, the social media around it, the advertising, but it was really eye-opening. I worked with another consultant and we interviewed like 25 of their peer-to-peer donors and talked with them on the phone. And it was just very eye-opening and enlightening for me to understand their motivations and what makes them tick and how that can translate into more money being raised for such a good cause. But this is why I love the work. I mean, every project is really just fantastic. I'm always learning something. And, people just are doing such incredible work in the world. I'm just always so inspired by them.
Definitely. People definitely get into the nonprofit area, that world, because they love it. You're not here for the
Yes.
money. Everyone's here because they love it. And I just love that about this industry as well.
I do too.
All right. Well,
This
thank
is
you so much
lovely.
for coming on the podcast.
Of
I have one
course.
last question for you, which we
Yes.
ask all of our guests.
I'm
It's a little
excited.
fun, off topic, but we're keeping a list of everyone's answers, so we'll see what we do with them one day.
Okay.
If your life had a theme song, what would it be and why?
My God. I think someone just asked me that. Someone wanted me to make a playlist. I think it would have changed before cancer, but now, I think it has to be Fight Song.
Mm.
I love that song. And I love that when it was Hillary's song too, when Hillary was running for president.
Yep.
So maybe it's kind of a theme that's been throughout my whole life, but that's what I would say kind of like off the cuff. But
I love that one. We haven't
Great
gotten that
there's
one
probably
yet.
a Taylor
Good
Swift
choice.
song that I'm forgetting about somewhere.
She's been mentioned quite a bit.
Yes, I'm sure. God, talk about a brand and a
Yeah,
powerful woman. She's amazing.
definitely.
100%. Well, thank you
That's
so
a great
much,
question.
Julia, for joining us at Goal Getter, her podcast.
Oh,
For
yeah.
everyone listening, make sure to check out Julia's books, Storytelling in the Digital Age. Follow her on social media. And if you work for a nonprofit, definitely check her out in her nonprofit social media summit. I attended myself. It's great. I will have all the links in the description. And as always, make sure to follow us on Instagram, LinkedIn, and TikTok at Goal Getter Podcast for updates and great content. And don't forget to tune in. We have bi-weekly episodes you won't want to miss. So see you soon, guys.
bye, everybody.